Let's connect malapa arena, our families. Oh, I can tell you, but let's be honest, sometimes the people closest to us are also the ones who hurt us the most. Today, we are asking a question that a lot of us think about, but are afraid to say it loud. Is your family toxic or just complicated? Registered Counsellor in Psychology Nikki Russell is joining us to help us work through all of that and more. Hello, Nikki.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good, thanks.
Great. So what is the difference between, being difficult or being toxic? And, toxic is quite a catchphrase, it's a big word these days. So, but what is the difference between difficult and toxic?
So difficult or complicated families they all have conflict, right? Every family has conflict,
yeah.
But in complicated families or difficult families, there's usually room for repair. So there is that accountability, that apology, and that change in behavior. But when we're looking at a toxic family dynamic, it's generally where there are repeated behaviors, and it happens time and time again. And there's little accountability for the impact that it has on the family members. So that's really the difference, is that accountability and that repair.
So when does what is normal conflict or difficult situations sort of become harmful, for one's family?
I think it becomes harmful when it's consistent, when that behavior is happening over and over again, and people are left feeling emotionally unsafe and consistently anxious. That is what I would describe it as.
Okay, so in terms of when there's disagreements, in the family, which normally happen, what are the things that one would need to look out for to say, okay, now we're dealing with a pattern of some sort here?
Okay, so when we're looking for a pattern, it's like when someone is consistently guilt-tripping you into doing something, or there is consistent manipulation. And then when you bring it to their attention, there's no accountability. And there is no, wait, let me look at myself and see how is this impacting my family members. So there's no room for repair. It's more of a dismissal.
Okay. So in terms of example of things, when guilt tripping itself, what is guilt tripping?
So guilt tripping, for example, is after everything I have done for you.
Oh gosh.
Another example that you might hear is, if you loved me, you would. Emotional sort of turmoil. And then, you're too sensitive. The dismissal of emotions.
Okay. So there's often a lot of pressure, in terms of family when it comes to things like, respect, especially balancing it out when you're dealing with older members of the family. Does that sometimes also play in with, the whole respect and seniority being used in guilt tripping and, and holding on and using it to manipulate the younger ones?
It could potentially, respect is a very important family value, and most families are built on respect. But respect doesn't mean you should accept emotional harm. Respect is showing that I appreciate you and I appreciate your authority, but I'm also going to protect myself and I'm going to look after my well-being. And sometimes that looks like boundaries.
Okay. So how do I protect myself emotionally and still being respectful? Especially because sometimes in families, you find dynamics where Penny's spoken to differently, and, without you knowing, there's some, favoritism or things like that.
Yeah.
How does that work out?
So that would require three things. Calm, consistent, and calm. You need to be calm in your boundaries, you need to be consistent, and you need to be clear, right? And if we remain calm and if we remain consistent and we remain clear, then it doesn't sort of escalate, it doesn't become a lack of respect, it becomes a conversation. It becomes us discussing how are we going to make this work, keeping in mind that yes, I need to respect you, whether it's a parent or a grandparent, that aspect of respect can stay there when we remain calm and when we remain clear of our intention behind the boundary. The intention is not to disrespect, but to rather keep their relationship healthy.
Okay, so just diving in more into boundaries, before we talk about, like, you know, examples of what healthy boundaries are, why is it such a difficult thing to establish boundaries when it comes to family?
Because we want our parents' love and approval, our families' love and approval, and our families mean a lot to us. And sometimes when we put a boundary down, it feels uncomfortable because it's something completely new. We're so used to certain patterns and certain ways of interacting with our family members because that's what we grew up with. But now we're introducing a totally new pattern and it feels uncomfortable, and that uncomfortableness can sometimes make you feel, okay, maybe the boundary is wrong, or maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. And that's what makes it difficult.
Okay, so just give me some, I don't know, ideas of like healthy boundaries that one should have with their family.
So one of the biggest examples is when a disagreement has escalated and it's turned a little bit ugly. One of the biggest boundaries is that I'm not going to continue this conversation until we're both calm. And if you say it in a calm way, we're not escalating, we're just taking time for us both to calm down, and then we can continue this conversation. And that's one of the biggest things that I tell my clients is, it's okay to pause. It's okay for us to just have that boundary of not letting it escalate beyond what we are happy with.
Okay, so then if I'm dealing with a difficult elder parent in the family who says, "Hey, what is this boundaries thing that you're talking about?" What do I do then?
You have to remember that this is for you, right? The boundary is about keeping your emotional state and your emotions safe and secure. And so yes, they might push against it and they might not understand it, but letting that boundary fall away means that you're opening that door again. And if you want to remain safe and emotionally secure, then it means you have to keep that boundary even though it's uncomfortable. And eventually people do get used to boundaries. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes they'll push back, but if you keep calm, clear, and consistent with your boundary, eventually people will get used to it.
Okay, I mean, it does get to a level where there is so much hurt, and fine, I'm willing to work on my healing and have these boundaries. But does it mean, like, you know, now I must forgive and forget and deal with the same person who does not see anything wrong with this behavior?
Forgiveness is a very important part, but forgiveness doesn't mean that you invite that behavior or that sort of conflict back into your life. Forgiveness is there and it's an important part, but we need to remember that it's about us. It's about what boundaries we want to keep, and even though it's someone that we love, or even though it's someone that we deeply care about, sometimes you have to think about what is best for me and what is best to keep this relationship healthy, whether it's distance or whether it's shorter communication. You have to be the main focus.
All right, Nikki, thank you so much for coming through and chatting to us. We'll definitely continue this conversation and others aligned with us throughout this month of July and other times here on the show. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. Remember, setting a boundary is not a betrayal. It's an act of self-respect, you know. So, yeah,